More now on our in-depth look at recycling in Canada. If you're of a certain age, you'll remember when it all started here 30 years ago. It was a hopeful and truly a simpler time. You bundled up the newspapers, and a few years later, you got to put all the glass and the tins in that same blue bin. Well, now recycling programs are much bigger, and there's more cost, too. For some people, there's also a lot of confusion over just what goes into the blue bin. So over the course of the next few hours, we're going to try to sort all that out with Mark Badger, who's the Executive Vice President of Canada Fibers. That's a major recycling company in Ontario. It is responsible, just so you know all the details, for sorting and processing recyclables for 14 communities across Ontario. So that's about 60% of the province's blue bin waste. Mr. Badger, thank you for coming in today.
Thanks for having us.
We have viewer questions for you. We're going to talk about what goes in, what doesn't go in, and over the course of, as I said, the next couple of hours, we'll try to sort some of these things out. But because of just how involved you are in Ontario's recycling system, you know the Ontario picture very well. Can you give us a national picture? I'd like to start generally. How well do we do in Canada at recycling?
So if we benchmark against other places in the world, not so good.
No?
We, in Canada, about 22–23% of post-consumer plastics materials go on to another life through recycling programs. That compares and contrasts to the better places in the world, like Belgium and Germany and so on, where they do over double that. And I like to think of that as an opportunity.
There's more to do, but that's not even a quarter.
Well, it isn't even a quarter of what's possible. We all play a role in making these programs successful. And you're absolutely right. We must be vigilant to put things in a blue bin.
Okay, so we're going to look at how to do this more effectively. But what is the main stumbling block, as you see it right now, to why that number is as low as it is?
Well, I think there is genuine confusion amongst households on what can go in and what can't go in. And I think we all share a responsibility to promote and educate the right things and to help people to understand the wrong things. Because when somebody puts something in a blue bin that shouldn't be there, it can contaminate many of the other valuable materials. It also can cause health and safety issues.
I think that's a really important point, the contamination. The figure that I was reading, maybe you can correct me, is about 25% of what we think we're putting in the proper place. 25% is contaminated. So that requires people pulling it out. It adds to the cost. It ruins the effectiveness of the program overall. So cross-contamination, a big, big issue. One of the other issues is what we put in the blue box now. We were showing the simpler time. You know, it was papers, it was tin cans. Now it's plastics. It's plastics because of a changing lifestyle. This is really what's driving this whole shift, isn't it?
It is, but we have to remember those plastics are very valuable, and the people that are putting them into a blue box and doing it responsibly after cleaning them out are doing a wonderful thing. They're helping us to preserve natural resources. They're curbing the amount of greenhouse gas that gets emitted. You know, in our company, we keep track of the number of trees we save as a result of our recycling efforts. And on an annual basis, I'm proud to tell you that our 700 or so employees keep 4 million trees in the forest where they belong, giving us oxygen to breathe.
Well, that's the aim. Okay, well, bringing up trees and what we use for certain things. Let's get into some viewer-specific questions. Speaking of trees, coffee cups. Disposable coffee cups. Canadians use about 1.5 to 2 billion disposable coffee cups a year. It's more in the UK. It's billions. Here's our question. This is the next question, actually. If you can, well, I tell you what. Can we go back to the first question, if you don't mind, which from Liz Head, the email that we got? And what Liz Head from Owen Sound wrote was, take out coffee cups are one of the biggest recycling problems. If people were charged $1 for each throwaway cup, they would soon take their own, me included. But this is a huge issue because of that plastic lining inside the paper cup. It means that they can't be recycled in an economical, in a proper way. What do we do about coffee cups?
Well, first of all, we have to thank Liz for the question.
Right.
It's a great question. It's on everybody's mind. Unfortunately, The coating that's on the coffee cups, and in many cases the amount of ink that's on the coffee cups, makes it very, very expensive to put into a form that it can be used and recycled. We need to work together. We need to work together to design a coffee cup that's more readily recyclable. And I got to tell you that this industry's up for that challenge.
Starbucks just announced another major project, although it did say it was supposed to have a recyclable cup by 2015, and it has not got that yet, but it's starting on another study. Interesting, though, one thing to keep in mind, is this not right? You can throw away the paper sleeve, and you can throw away the cap as long as it's not black.
So in many cases, municipalities do take the caps. There's valuable plastic in it. Let's recycle it where we can.
Okay.
And in some communities, even black caps can be used. If the caps were a light color generally, that would help us to recover more.
All right. Caps, sleeves for now, and solutions for the cups, but that's one of the big issues. And one other question right now, before we take a pause and bring you back, and that was the question we showed you earlier from Tom Fromage, and an interesting comment. Here's what gets me. When I was a kid, stores gave you your purchases in paper bags. Milk and soda came in reusable bottles with a deposit. So what you're saying is we should just have stayed that way. The idea of a deposit, yes, we've got it in wine bottles. Yes, we got it in beer cans and things like that. What about, would that kind of a deposit system be of value?
That's one approach. It does work some places in the world. I will tell you, it's a long road between introduction of a system like that and when you get to substantial behavioral change. I don't think it's the only road. I think the better road is using the blue box as it's intended. There's 900,000 tons a year that go into blue boxes. If we can eradicate the contamination and make sure we get in there what we can, much more valuable resource can go on to another life.
So that is more effective than paying people to take their pop bottles back as we used to do.
It works in some places, okay, but people have become very familiar with the blue box or the blue bin, and to ask them to go to a store to get a deposit for a bottle, maybe asking a little much if we ask them to do it overnight. Could it be part of the solution? Absolutely. But the blue bin has tremendous potential if we use it correctly.
Big if, because although we've heard about it in Canada for 30 years, we're still not using it properly. That's what we're going to talk about next hour, so bring back props and to bring your props in, and we'll talk about where things go with Mark Badger, the Executive Vice President of Canada Fibers. Thanks for this hour, and we'll talk more next hour. So you can send your questions to us via Twitter. That's at CBC Morning Live. Email is morninglive@cbc.ca. And don't forget that you can message us as well through the CBC News Facebook page. Thank you, Mark.